You're listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with host Doc Martin. Stay tuned in or call in. You won't want to miss what's happening next. How do you step into your maximum potential? How do you connect your spiritual drive with your physical path? Stick around as Doc Martin takes listeners on a journey through the seen and unseen, the accepted and the unbelievable. Get ready to meet the maximum you the world needs on Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin now. Hi, everybody. I'm Doc Martin, Maximum Medicine. And you know how I like to talk about the fact that there's really no separation between science and mysticism. And it's what I usually have. All my guests are on the same page. And what I also love, and that's why you're going to love my guest today, I love people who know how to walk with one foot in each of those worlds, because that shows that it's not just our thinking that says there's no space, but we can actually do it. So when I go through TikTok or Threads or Instagram, I'm not on X anymore, sorry. I run across people who have posts that really get me. And I am thrilled with their approach. I'm thrilled with what they have to say, and I think the world needs to hear it. So here we have today Dr. Ilaria Menapace, who's going to talk to us coming in from Italy, right, Ilaria?
Yes.
All
yes,
right.
Italian Alps.
And she is a scientist. She is a mystic. She walks the talk. So I'm thrilled to have her here with us today. Ilaria, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
So you're a chemist.
Material scientist.
Material scientist. What's the difference? I'm sorry. What's the difference?
Well, material science is an interdisciplinary field which comprises chemistry, of course, but also physics, also engineering, like mechanical engineering. So yeah, that's what it means. But there is also part of chemistry, and during my PhD that I was synthesizing, I was among chemists. So yeah, I don't define myself as a chemist because I'm a material scientist, but yeah, I've studied chemistry.
Good. So all of those hard sciences that we call hardcore science. So somewhere along the line, you stumbled into, made a conscious decision to jump over into the mystical world. Tell me something about that journey and that transition.
Well, that was gradual, actually. It was not overnight. I've always been attracted by energies, by the paranormal, by things that science couldn't explain. So I've always been open to it. In my book, I'm explaining quite at the end, I don't know if you reached that part, that I had an experience when I was a child, that really I was swimming and I was 10 with my brother, and at a certain point, like the water just came up. We couldn't touch the ground anymore. And somehow there was a force that was not coming from me. It was stronger. It was not me. And I could get myself out and my brother too. So I experienced it. So I knew there was more than what we were studying. So at the beginning, I was just, exploring a little bit, but I was still a scientist. I'm still a scientist, and this is exactly what I'm doing here, because the science is not just what we think it is, or what scientism tells us it is. There's much more, because we just know 4.9% of what exists. That's what we know. The atoms, but the rest, the 95.1%, we don't know what it is. So there's space there, It's just that science sometimes is a bit arrogant and thinks that, what we know is all that there is, and until we discover it, it doesn't exist. But actually it exists also before we discover it. So basically, yeah, it was gradual, and at certain point, yes, initiations in my life, I call initiations like breakdowns that lead to
Mhm.
breakthroughs. So something that happens that makes you awaken. So several awakenings until like I was not in my comfort zone anymore, and I went to some retreats. I started learning. I took courses. I started practicing with energy, and then I asked myself, why? What is it? I'm feeling it now. Of course, it took some time to develop this sensitivity or to also see, clairvoyantly. It took some time and exercise. I wasn't born with it. Some people are born with it. I wasn't. I was really doing exercises step by step. And I realized it was such a big thing. So as a scientist, I couldn't just take it as other people do and use it. I wanted to understand. That's why I started investigating, and I actually saw that the two things are compatible, actually. Actually, one explains what the other doesn't. So they are not in opposition, they are actually both true. It's just that with our understanding, we haven't got to the point where we can explain them or measure these energies or really understand what they are, because they are really subtle energies. So that's where I started. I started writing my book, where I'm explaining a little about my experience, and also including a little bit of science and some of my practices.
Mhm. So for you, you felt that you had to bring that capacity out in yourself. You didn't have it to begin with.
No.
I had a guest who's a medical intuitive, and she teaches, excuse me, medical intuition to doctors and nurses, and
Wow.
she finds that excuse me, everyone is able to learn it.
Yeah, definitely. If I learned it, everyone is able.
Right. So I just think we've had so much conditioning over years and years and years in our society to shut that part of us down.
Yeah. We are not taught that we have these capabilities.
And it's not permitted to be exercised when you're children. If you have a clairvoyant moment, you're told it's foolishness, or
Yeah,
you're
it's
just
discounted.
imagination, or you're making it up, and how come you're lying to me? And so, what capacities have you found that you were able to activate in yourself besides clairvoyancy?
Well, it's of course it's not so easy to be in a society like this one and still do the work. First, because we don't have time. Like if you work 8 hours, and you have family, it's really like not easy to find the time and space to do it. It takes time, at least for me. And so it required some time to also understand what it is and really trust it, because intuition, you don't have any proofs of it. So of course people tell you, oh, what is it? I don't believe in it, because you have no way to show them, yeah, it's true. You
Mhm.
know only after. So basically, when I started doing it, I had no proofs. I just needed to trust what I was seeing. I was starting, it was during COVID, and we were all at home, and I was starting to do exchanges with like
Mhm.
psychologists and life coaches, and I had to just like close my eyes and trust, and I would see a movie. So it was, and I was describing what I was seeing, and just trusting. And then at the end of the session, we understood what was the message, because the quantum field speaks in symbols, speaks in like, some images that then at the end, it's like a movie, you understand it at the end. Or some people confirmed to me some of the sisters from soul sisters from my courses and retreats confirmed to me, for example, once I saw, so you asked about, except, I mean, apart from clairvoyance, I consider it all together, like channeling information. Sometimes I see images, sometimes I just know. It just comes to me what to say, and it's much higher than what I would say if I was, talking like this as Ilaria. So of course it comes from a higher source, and also energy transfer. So basically, with this person, I just saw some energy going to her right breast, and I told her, and then I kept going on watching the movie. And at the end, she told me, oh, last week I did a course where we had to choose where to store our energy, and I chose my right breast. So it's all these things that it cannot be by chance, So as a scientist as well, or as an observer, I think, okay, I've seen this, it could be random. Okay, it could be made up, but how come that at the end you have such demonstrations? Or someone, I see something and then they confirm me, oh yeah, I lived that in my childhood. So it's the other way around. So first we have to trust what it is, and then we understand, and then it happens, the healing. So I don't do clairvoyance like remote viewers to look into, go somewhere. I always do it for healing, for going into the block and just remove it into the block emotion, and sometimes we go back to childhood, sometimes we travel through generations to the ancestors, but it's always something energetic that is blocked, and then we just shift the energy, and that in that moment the person changes, releases what it's not, and then it becomes nearer to what she is, in reality, like and in this way, I see it on an energetic way. It's like she is integrating more her higher self. So it's becoming more herself.
So I have two things to add to that, because I remember when I was doing my shaman training, and we were told to do divination, which was a clairvoyant activity. I'm like, I've never done, and that part of that trust for me, there was a moment, and there happens to be often when I try to go into that space, where I have to say, okay, brain, you're saying you don't believe it, but you have to go sit over here for a while, because I'm going to let you sit still for a minute and suspend that disbelief. Put it on the side.
Yeah.
And at that moment, you make the conscious effort and statement and intention to trust what's coming, even though you're saying this is crazy, or no way, there's no way this can be true, or oh, I can't do that, so this is what I'm seeing, I'm making it up, or all of these things. But when you suspend disbelief and you just say, okay, when we're finished, you can come back in and stay in my head and be crazy, but right now you're going to sit over here. Then there is that joining, as you say, there's information field that we all have access to. So I love that part, because it takes that conscious moment where you choose, I'm just going to trust this for now. Later it can be crazy, but for now I'm going to trust it. And then in my coursework, and later with people in our sessions or something, I would say things and I'd be thinking, this is crazy. And the person would validate the truth in what I was seeing.
Exactly.
And then more and more and more and more, there's a part of you that can access a different space outside of material, outside of logic, outside of science, and get validated. And I think that's where we've had so much conditioning to go, that's crazy. No, there's no way you can know that. No. I think we have, and there's so many people now waking up to our gifts as humans. The indigenous did this all the time. They had to have intuition to understand where they were going to set their camp. Where were they going to go find the good hunt for the suppers they were going to eat. They had to do that. And what weather is coming? Like they say, what is it? The Inuits have 150 words for snow. Well, they had to know what kind of weather was coming when you live on the ice, Anyway, so I love that. I love that we have ways, if we can trust or suspend disbelief, to activate those talents in ourselves, because I think they're there.
Yeah, and let me add something. Like
Mhm.
what I noticed in the clients I had, the people also who learned, the more one studied, the most difficult it was to learn. So people with degrees, with PhD, like me, for example, I have a strong mind. I really a very strong rational mind. It took so much longer than other people that didn't have the same study because they just learned that way, and there was nothing that was impeding it. So
Right.
that is one thing, and we are living in a society that where like the mind is rewarded all the time, and the studies, the mental studies. So it's difficult for the intuition to emerge because where do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I wanted to add, since what you said, like not always at the end of the session. Like I had some people that like one person had a polyp on her womb, and she was supposed to go undergo surgery, and 2 sessions were enough because I work on 2 levels, one emotional and one energetic. So one session was emotional. We went into the shadow like a shaman, so we went down into
Mm-hmm.
the shadow and we unblocked something. She was really like, she was a life coach, she was really fast. So, and she was one of the fastest, I have to say that. And then she worked on that polyp. She came to the session like, oh, I don't want it. I want it gone. And then we changed mindset, and we actually thanked the polyp because it was carrying some information, some messages for her trauma in childhood. So we went into childhood. So we did that, and then in the following 2 weeks, she just had a conversation, continuous conversation with the polyp. And then the next session I had, I felt like I channeled no need to go into the emotion anymore. And it was the first time because usually we need to go into the emotion many times, but she had done so much work already. It was just pure channeling of energy. So I was seeing the channel. I also told her there is a part that is smooth, a part that is more rough. And she said, oh, yeah, because she explained me why. And then I saw it coming. I saw the energy coming. And then it was like, poof, and it became smaller. And then when she went again to see, because she was supposed to be operated, they told her, now it's small. It doesn't need to be operated anymore. It doesn't need to be removed. And then she kept going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it disappeared completely. So of course, what I want as a scientist, what I would like as a scientist, is to have a way to prove this, because we observed it. But how can you tell them, oh, it was because of the session, it was because of the continuous talk?
Right. Right.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
part that I'd like to that should be the next step, but it's
I
not.
was remembering when you were saying that and I was remembering um, the studies that were done on the power of prayer. And Elizabeth Tark, before she died, was doing a lot of those actual clinical trials to add prayer, or in this case, energy healing, to the already standard of the scientific plan was the same for both people. And so there were studies that she started. She passed away, I think, I'm going to say at least 10 years ago, but those would be really fun to participate in. I think there are people doing those through the IONS group.
Oh
The
yeah.
I'm sure they're doing some, but I haven't seen the results yet. But so tell us a little bit. You mentioned your book. I wanted to make sure we talked about your book. You've written a book, Luminous Alchemy.
Yeah, here I have it. I don't know if you can see it. Of
Okay.
course, without this line here because that's the proof, but it
doesn't show totally
It
well,
doesn't
but
show because I have the.
well, when Nat edits this video, he'll bring in an image of the cover and make sure
Okay.
we have that. So that book, you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
You can get it. It can also be a Kindle book. And in your book, you talk about in your journey, the transitions you made included traveling to different sacred places.
Mm.
And you talk about the awakenings associated with different locations. Can you share some of that?
Yeah, of course. So basically, my book, the title is Luminous Alchemy from Scientist to Priestess. This is the like Scientist to Priestess is a name that I have also on Instagram, on TikTok, in my website. And it's because it's my journey from scientist to priestess, but actually it's also still being a scientist. So, and Luminous Alchemy, because we are, I'm talking about the alchemy methods, the alchemy I had in my life, and light, there's a lot of light in it. And I wanted to write a book that is also quite, fun to read and light, it's not just, the findings of a scientist, although
Mhm.
someone told me, oh, you write as a scientist. Well, after 15 years of writing scientific articles, yes. But so each chapter starts with a place. Some
Mhm.
places where, to introduce to like the people to some concept, like when I went to Nepal and I was in Patan Museum, I saw a very ancient drawing about the chakras, and that used to be only for initiates. And it felt really sacred, and I felt really grateful to be able to access it. And that was the introduction of the chapter about the light bodies and the different so how they influence each other, because of course when I help people heal, because I don't heal people, they heal themselves, I just make the way for them to heal. Sometimes they develop something in the physical, because the process takes you in the fastest way to get to healing. So some people develop dermatitis, urine infections, or they were just in bed for 2 days until the energy, there was some alchemy happening. So, or also the opposite, like the example I mentioned before, like through energy and emotional work, then you have something in the physical that heals. So, but I mean, it's towards healing. Just the small illnesses or the ear infections. Some people have it because, for example, I removed a block here, so it passed through the to the physical body, and but then it was a way to go towards healing, of course. So then other chapters are based on energetic spots. Like for example, once I went to Egypt. Well, there's many energetic spots, but one I remember where it was in Luxor. I entered a room and it's like I felt immediately the shift in energy, and it was a place that was sacred, a place where many people prayed. The same happened. So then when I go to such a place, I notice it because I feel something. There is a sixth sense. It's like really like and not, it's not just me, but you have to be sensitive in order to feel that. And another time, it was in a castle that was in ruins, that was in Jordan. I went into these four walls and it was like, what is it? It's like there's something here. And then through the process at that time, I didn't know what it was. So I had some sensitivity, some capabilities, but since no one had taught me what they were and that they were real, so I had no idea. So then I went to look at the map of the castle, and I discovered that in that place there was a mosque previously. So there had been a mosque. So I felt the ancient, either it was an energetic vortex before and they built a mosque around it, or the people through prayers, through channeling, through practice, spiritual practice, they maybe channeled some energy and it stayed there. So I still don't know about these two options, these two possibilities, which one could be true. But it's definitely true that there are some vortexes and some people really feel them. I'm writing a new book now and I'm putting
Mhm.
even more of these experiences because it's really, they are everywhere. It's just we need to be attuned to the energy.
Well, I think part of why we consider a site sacred is because many people have been there connecting to the higher energies. And I think you're right. I think it leaves an energetic imprint that is sensed by the next person who comes. What is your favorite place you've been to?
Oh, this is a tough question. I always say I cannot answer that question because they ask me also, in general, because they know I've traveled a lot, but each place has their flavor, their frequency. Like it's unique to that place. Like, for example, now I'm thinking about Iran, for example. Like when I went there, it's like, this is Persia. This is like, I've been here. Like sometimes, in some places, like it's oddly familiar. It shouldn't be, but it's like this is more home than my home.
Mhm.
And of course, Egypt was also one of these places when I, was traveling on the Nile and stopping at each temple. There we were in a group, we were doing our channeling together. So we were really taking it so we were really sensing the energy
Mhm.
and doing the work. So it also depends with whom you are. Of course, when I was traveling with my family or some friends, it was less, less doing less practice of this type. But still, it was important because it was calling me anyway. Like in Jordan, I was like called. That also Petra was amazing.
Mhm.
Like, and you cannot explain. I was like this for 2 days and I was there. It's like I don't
Mhm.
understand why, but I'm like this. And again, like another place that was similar was in Montserrat near Barcelona. Now I'm describing the places that I will put in the next book. I'm
Good,
already
good.
uh, wherever I'm like there and seeing the place and not understanding why I am in awe. I'm like in awe. Like I don't know why, but I'm really like reverent. Like I don't know how to describe it even. Now I know it's because there's an energy, there's a vortex, an energy vortex. And another thing I wanted to add in the book that I wrote, so Luminous Alchemy, I also use the places to describe some energy. So I'm working a lot with divine masculine and divine feminine energies because it's for me a framework that works very well for spiritual growth, which is like divine union, which is a concept that we received from many ancient traditions in like Egyptian, but also the Chinese, the Indian tradition. So we received that as a concept and it's still very strong. So I work a lot with this kind of energies. So I describe, for example, the divine feminine, like Bali. Like in Bali, there was really a divine feminine energy. Divine masculine, Australia. It was balanced, feminine and masculine, but and then there were the more wounded energy, like the Western world. For me, I described London. When I was in London, it was more the wounded masculine, the do, which is the one that we in the Western world are actually starting from. And then we are going to the medicine for that is divine feminine. And then there is the wounded feminine. There was Zanzibar because it was a place where I went. It was amazing, but there had been the slave trade and that had left an imprint, energetic imprint. So yeah.
Well, the places that, I mean, I loved Palenque. I loved many of the sites in the Yucatan that felt like home to me. I love Southwest United States and Chaco Canyon and other places where the Hopi and Navajo are. But every time that I am somewhere, and the place that's in my wallpaper on in this picture,
Yeah.
which is in in the Grand Tetons in Wyoming, that when you hit a place in nature where you can feel the life force and you can feel the chi. In this particular picture, the brook was moving, the water was rippling over the rocks and the trees all around. And the sweetness of the energy there, you could feel the life force.
Yeah,
And that's why, and you probably tell your clients this a lot, you've got to incorporate nature into your
totally.
lives, if we're going to learn those more hidden skills that we have, the ones that are the clairvoyance, the intuition, the divination, you need the quiet time and you need to connect to nature's energies. Because that has a power that our modern society has kind of squelched.
And
Um,
without doing anything, I mean, you just go there and you receive. That's the beauty. I spent one night in the desert this winter in Senegal, and the whole night I was like, I was, there was like washing me, like the prana was washing my body. And it was so good because I had to do nothing, just receive.
I
So these
love
places
that.
are doing the
And
healing for you.
you're mentioning an important topic here, though. And I think so many people are trying to teach this to other people. We need to get away from the feeling of do, and stop and be quiet and then receive from the places that have this powerful life force. And nature is the first place you can go where it's free and
Exactly.
it's never ending. But we have maybe about 10 more minutes. So I want to talk about a couple of things that you bring up in your posts on Instagram. And remember, everybody listening, scientist to priestess, all one word. That's Ilaria's handle. Um, Talking about a couple of things that you say, so I'd like you to comment on them. Emotions aren't noise. Tell me about that.
Emotions are messengers. So in the messages they carry are very important. So when, for example, we are 3 years old, 4 years old, we got some kind of trauma, which could be, okay, I drop my ice cream, I'm not receiving a new one. It doesn't have to be a big trauma. It can be also something small, but to us, what's important is the perception here. We are in the field of changing perspective and perception. So we are going into the perception. So we think it's not important because, yeah, okay, just get over it. But actually within us, we felt unworthy, we felt like a failure, because that were the feelings we had when we were 3. And then when we are adults, we are still having those feelings. They are still coming up exactly in the same way. So when we do like a spiritual surgery, we go exactly there, in the field. I see the child, he's 3 years old, and usually tell them, yeah, that's what happened. And then yeah, the client say, oh yeah, I remember that because of course the subconscious gives them, it's still there, it's like no time has passed. So we are going into the emotion, we are feeling. Sometimes what happens when I open the field, now it's coming to my body very strongly, that sometimes really I feel bad. It's really nauseating and strong, and also not, I am processing for them sometimes to help them process faster, but usually I take them there and they feel their own energy or emotion is the same. It's like a stuck energy, I see this block. Sometimes it's hard. Usually when people are younger, it's very soft. I can like just do that and it goes. Someone is, when someone is a bit older, these emotions are becoming like, are entering the physical body, are becoming denser and denser. and they are about to become illnesses in the physical body. So by going there and releasing them, we are actually preventing the physical illness, and we are healing the psychological side of that. So basically we go into this emotion, which is not noise. Noise is when you think, oh, I have to repress it and just perform, you know. No, we go there, we open up. Sometimes we have to do it more than once, because if it's a core wound, we need to, you know, it's like a physical wound. We open it, you know, physical wound that there is some infection under. What we do is we open it. Yeah, it's painful. We cut it open. We remove what is the infection there. We cleanse it. So it's painful, but once it's done, you know, it can close and heal. You know, there is no more. When you touch it, when you have an infection, you feel pain and you react to that. When it's healed, because we go back to childhood, we see this is very basic inner child work, you know, so it's not really weird. So but that's the importance of, but the thing is that we don't do it in our society, but that's the importance of that emotion, because we realize, all right, my perspective was I'm a failure, I'm not worthy, but actually I just dropped the ice cream and my mother didn't want to buy it again, and you know, that was the lesson. So we readjust the perspective. So we release this block. It's like we cleanse the wound, we close it, and then we are fine. Next time we receive another, like, you know, from the outside, we are susceptible. We feel, you know, usually when someone tells us something, we feel a failure usually. Then after having done the work, we don't feel it anymore. Or if we feel it a little bit, then we go back and we see, okay, there's still some aspect that I haven't healed yet. So they are amazing messengers, and they're important in our lives. Emotions, I mean, they are really not noise.
Yeah, because so many times people who are very emotional are always told to get a grip or calm down, and
Yeah.
oftentimes I find in my medical practice, these are the people who feel the most. They're people who are maybe you would say too sensitive. They're taking it all in without boundaries.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when you can help them see how to have boundaries, they're not overwhelmed all the time.
Yeah, that's
So
the other
let's
side of the
go ahead.
medal. Can I add one
Yes,
thing
please.
about that, because
Yes.
that's a very important concept. So I talk usually about people who repress, because that's the
Hmm.
people that are usually, you know, that I encounter usually, that are, they perform very well, they have careers that are amazing, they have companies, but then they are repressing. And these people are more in the ego. So I always talk in terms of ego, inner child, and higher self. You know, that's my method, just to simplify the concept. The people you just mentioned are more the people that are just in their inner child. Their ego just gave up, you know, order to, you know, they are just there showing their emotion, no boundaries. So both these people, I mean, ego plus inner child is the lower self. So in order to grow, we need to go into the higher self. So both these people need to learn different things, but to like release the grip of the ego, and also the inner child should be connected to the higher self, so that these emotions are not like overwhelming, but there is a part that has a higher perspective, that understand what's going on and actually use them in the right way. You know, there is a virtuous way of using the emotion, and there is a, you know, damaging way of using emotions, because if you keep just expressing them without ever, you know, managing them and you know, use them to heal, then it's also no point.
I like that. Thank you. So
Okay.
let's go to one of the other things you said, and then we can talk about this. Being rational does not silence your soul.
Yeah. So rational, exactly, it's more the ego, and the soul is the higher self. So here we find again the same characters that are actually living. It's us, you know, it's like us, what we choose to be. So rationality is in service to intuition, like that. Einstein said that the mind is in service to intuition. It's not the other way around, or it's not just the mind. So we need to I mean, it's very useful. The ego is really very positive for us. It just needs to know its place. Uh, the thing is that usually the ego takes over what the spirit, the soul, should, manage. So that's what's going on in our society, that the ego is actually managing and the soul is apart. But the soul, at a certain point, you cannot pretend. The mind say, oh, it's rational to stay together with this person that I married 25 years ago, or to stick to this career that I chose 25 years ago is coherence. I made a choice, because also it's the comfort zone. So the mind wants to like limit the problems. The soul doesn't. That the soul wants to experience. So it will push you. It will push you outside your boundaries. If you don't make it happen, the soul will make it happen. Because the purpose of being on earth is just to integrate as much as possible your soul, your spirit. So that's the growth. So I see it as a liquid light, and we have more or less 5%, 5-6% of of the light we actually have in other planes, here incarnated, embodied. And the work is to embody more and more. So that every time we shift and we change perspective and we stabilize it and then we shift again, this is the growth. The more we are actually integrating the light, which is us, because the light is our higher self. It's like liquid light, which is our spirit. The more we are integrating it within us. And this is the purpose. So the soul wants to come through. And
so would you say, if I use different words, would you agree with it? Becoming more aware and integrating your multidimensionality.
Yeah.
Is that another way of?
Yeah, totally. Because the more you are integrating, because I see in terms of energy, everyone sees it in a way that resonates the most. I see that we are this big white light, and then we are getting drops of it, and we are connected. So whenever we become more aware, which means our perspective changes, it's all about changing perspective. Every time we do a perspective change, we unblock some stuck emotion, we change some limiting beliefs, we are integrating more of that light, which is the multidimensional self, which is our true self. So here on earth, we think we are, but we are a part of what we really are. So the more we integrate it, the more we become wise, we become actually aligned, in balance, in our divine union. So
and I think we have more and more acceptance, anyway, of the physicists who are teaching that we really do have consciousness in different dimensions, that we really are part of a bigger universal field. And so I think that's what's so beautiful of people who are walking, bringing in science and priestess energy, is to be able to see what physics is going to finally be able to show us, that we are bigger and more of us and exist in different planes. And then we can expand, and anyway, it'll be good when more people see that.
But definitely, like the only physicist I'm mentioning in my book actually is Federico Fagin, and he's actually showing that the postulate is consciousness and free will. So basically, instead of thinking consciousness comes from matter, which is what scientists now think, you reverse the paradigm and you think matter comes from consciousness. And he also explains it like in physical terms. So I feel like now we are getting there. Now, the materialism, the reductionism of scientism, because it's not science, that's not science, is scientism, which is different because they just want to keep the way it is because, they made some work on it, they work a lifetime on it. So it's difficult to change for people that for a lifetime they have worked with in these terms. But if you actually think about it, everyone knows is conscious. We are conscious. So actually also physics is catching up now. Neuroscience will come, because it makes more sense. He actually demonstrated that materialism and reductionism are not correct. So we're getting there.
We're getting there. Yep.
Yeah.
So you have another place that you talk about. You talk about the body is sacred.
Bali.
What do you mean by that?
No, about Bali, I felt like a divine feminine energy.
I'm sorry. I misspoke or you didn't understand me. The body.
The body.
Body. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. The body is sacred.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the body, as we said before, has the memory of our life, who we are. And when we go into it, it's showing us, sometimes we give it for granted. There are people that have the head on one side, the body on the other side, and they just get around with the body, and it's not, that's not part. Actually, I think it's the guys, the Hopi. I'm not sure if it's the right tribe. They actually put it in the rocks. Like there will come a time where there will be people that have the head which is not connected to the body. And it was a prophecy from these ancient tribes, like from America. So this is where we are now. So many people like just think like that. But actually, if they start connecting with the body and feeling like and thanking the body will not have to create illnesses because it's like it's shouting, the body is conscious, the cells are conscious, and also we are all connected, so they can feel us, they can get the messages, and we can get their messages. So instead of thinking this body is like inanimate, oh yeah, it's alive, but it doesn't speak. No, let's start connecting. And then when we start connecting, we start also we will be able to heal the parts that are calling us, because when we feel pain, it's the body telling us there is something there that you need to see. And since you didn't listen when I was just an emotion, I'm shouting now louder because you need to listen to me. So that's sacred. That's a sacred space and must be protected. Sometimes, we speak to people, we go to places. I mean, it's a temple. It should be taken to the place that do good to the body and to ourselves.
Well, so much of spirituality, 30 years ago, everybody thought that the only way to go was to learn the Eastern tradition of meditation and be off in a space where you denied any of your physical reality, and that kind of disconnect was the way to reach the highest learning. But I think we're starting to see that being physically present in your body and incorporating your spirit and your spiritual work into your physical is really what's going to amplify you as a human being.
Yeah, definitely. Because we came here for a reason. We came to the body to be in the body. So if we are just escaping again, it's just another way of like not living the earthly experience. So the purpose actually also manifesting, not be, just in the higher chakras, and just actually manifesting on the earth who we are, moving around earth with our mission, but being present, feeling the body, feeling whatever is going on in the body.
So in that, I think you're very right, because we need a better connection. We need a better respect. And what you've brought up, I think, is an important point, that the imbalances are happening in the energetic level before they're arriving in the physical. And when they've hit the physical, that's probably your higher self or spirit giving you the big wake-up call. But people don't always, or they come to the appreciation of their body a little too late. And I think
Or
that,
they don't even come to the appreciation.
right. And I think
Maybe you
that
froze a little
more
bit.
people are learning that. Younger people are learning that today more, I think. The younger generation seems to be learning that better.
Yeah,
So
but the traditional way of looking at illnesses is still the allopathic way, like not looking at their origin. There are, the normal doctors don't know where they come from, and they don't even ask themselves this question. So they just try to heal, but to solve the problem, but without really healing.
I think,
So.
well, of course, I completely agree with you. It's just, it's a hard thing to change the momentum of mainstream medicine. It's a hard thing. It's a big boulder running downhill that's very hard to put the brakes on yeah. But anyway,
And yeah, also because like, who are you to say this? Like they tell me, or like I tell myself, like, who am I to say this? Society still works with like institution and degrees, and my degrees in and PhD are in materials engineering and material science. So just do that. And it's and doctors say something else, so they have more weight. It's really like also that's the problem about trust. Because we know, and there are like us, there are so many people who know, who had experiences, because come on, we are here, we are living, so we are living scientists, all of us,
we're
because
a
we are.
daily experiment.
Exactly. So of course I've seen more people because I'm doing it actively,
Mhm.
but the problem is not is the authority. The authority still says the old medicine, the Western medicine, that's what works. And I'm not against it. Also in the book, I'm saying still everyone does what they are told by their doctor. They still take the medicine, but this work is in parallel, and that's the one that maybe goes to the origin if there's time, because if the illness has gone too far, then there is no time for that. Like there are no miracles. Also, it's not a miracle, it's a technology. So it takes time. It's not like, oh, you do it and you solve it. Yeah, if you are a master and you can channel so much energy, it might go faster. But where I am now, or where we are now, it's like it works, but it needs time, it needs work, also from the person who wants the healing. The patient doesn't just stay there and waits for the body to, or the doctor to heal him. No, is an active participant. So the patient is actually an active participant for his self healing. Okay, so this all
So
works, it takes time.
let's close up. If you'll tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and work with you. And so if you'll do that, and then what messages or encouragement would you give the listeners? What are one or two things you want people to know?
All right. So first of all, you can get in touch with me through my website, which is scientisttopriestess.com. My Instagram is scientist to priestess. In this way, you have a direct way of messaging me and talking to me. Then I'm also on Threads, but those are the ways that, in the website, you will find the contact email, which is ilaria@scientisttopriestess.com.
Perfect.
So these are the
And
ways.
what's your message for the listeners? What do you want people to know?
Be open-minded. Trust yourself and your intuition. Start developing the intuition and trusting it. Sometimes we trust more other people because they seem like they have authority, more authority. This person studied more. No, We have a huge knowledge. We have access to the quantum field. Every one of us, we are all connected to the quantum field. So you can get your own channeling. It takes patience. So I really encourage everyone, if I made it with my mind of an engineer, if I was able to make it, you are going to make it too. It's just a matter of a mind shift, and be able to trust that. And then when you start trusting and you see that the answers are coming, maybe you talk to a part of your body and there is some message there, you feel some emotion, then you maybe some memories that didn't pop up in 30 years, that it pops up, you know you are in the right way. So I really encourage every one of you to take this path, because that's the path to spiritual growth and the reason why we are here on earth. And all together, if we all do that, the earth will change. This will be common knowledge. This will be actually the authority at some point, because
Right.
we will all agree that it works. So it's important that each one of us does their part also for the collective. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Oh, thank you. So everybody, Dr. Ilaria Menapace, her website is scientist2priestess.com. Her Instagram handle is scientist2priestess. You can connect with her. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for talking about this. And thanks for being part of the shift. And when we build enough momentum, things will change and the world will be amazing. Thank you. You've been listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin. Tune in next time while the doc talks health, spirituality, and the impact your beliefs have on every part of who you are, body and soul. Doc Martin unpacks the challenges we face as human beings and teaches callers to open the door between the scientific and the mystical. To learn more about Doc Martin and Maximum Medicine, visit www.sharonmartinmd.com.